Hey everybody, I'm Christine Barr, and this is Today Over Tea, where we have real conversations about things that matter. I'm a dancer, businesswoman, traveler, and host. And today we're creating an open-minded space with hopes of spreading awareness and education through similar experiences. I'm going to introduce you to some of the most passionate and knowledgeable people in my life. 2020 is the time to own who you are, reach your highest potential, and just love your life. Because let's face it, we're all going through something, but it's time to evolve as a society. We need to spread more kindness and love for each other and this planet. So let's start the conversation. Welcome back, guys. This is so exciting. We are going to be discussing something that I think is extremely important in not just in the world in general, but especially in today's society world. A couple of things, but majorly we're going to discuss mental health. And I do strongly believe that mental health has a lot to do with relationships and stress and just kind of, you know, your upbringing, how that all came together, which is what our guest today is going to be discussing. This is Murielle, and I'm saying it in French because we are both French.
Yes, for once.
That's right, I know. And so that's an incredible thing. And I do want to share also that initially we did not meet until this very moment before we did this. And the reason that we met was because I put out the podcast intro saying this is what we're going to do, started building the group, and you reached out through the group and said, hey, are you accepting applications to be a guest on the podcast? And I was like, sure, I never really thought about that. What a great idea. But I also, everything kind of lined up.
Yes.
And we connected, I called you, the French connection.
Yes.
It's all great.
And I loved your energy on
Thank
that
you.
video. That's also because you had such a joyful, alive energy, and I love Tivoli.
Oh, me
And-
too. We love Tivoli.
So, and when you said that you were going to address mental health, I said, oh, I have some benefit to give to your audience about
Wow.
that. So
That's amazing.
combination of reasons.
Well, there you go. See, once you guys will have seen this, everything obviously will be launched, but we are still a little under a month from launch date, and this podcast is already bringing people together, which is incredible. So this is exactly why I'm doing this, is because we just talked about how it's very rare to meet people who are constantly trying to grow and be better and inspire. I think that's happening more and more now, but it's becoming more of a trend than anything.
Yes.
I think people doing it for the right reasons, for their personal growth, and not just to prove to people that new year, new me kind of thing, you know? I feel like that's such a trend,
Yes.
but you really need to put in the work, and growing is uncomfortable, and it's hard, and it's, brings on insecurity.
You have to look at yourself in the mirror, and a lot of people are so afraid to do that because we are in a society where there is a lot of shame about everything.
That's true.
So when you look at yourself and you have that shame weighing on you, you can't even look at what you need to address because the shame is too prevalent.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I want you to tell our audience, though, just kind of your story, because I'm going to learn as well since we just met, even though I know a little bit, kind of how what is influential in your upbringing that allowed you to become the person that you are today, and your business a little bit.
So to start about the influence in my story, when I was very young, very early in my life, my parents had a difficult relationship, and I was always the one trying to comfort my mother. And from that, I guess I don't know if I had it in me, probably I came with it too, but I developed an ability to soothe. And when I was in high school, the teachers used to connect me with the kids in the class who needed maybe tutoring or some help. And everywhere I went, some people say I found my purpose. I always say my purpose found me. Because everywhere I went, women or girls who were in pain were drawn to me because I had a soothing effect. Even before I was certified as a coach, even before I knew what I was doing,
Yeah.
there was that factor. And
So
I
let me
loved it.
I was just gonna say, how did that make you feel? Because for
I
people
loved
in severe pain and all of that, some people would not want to be around that kind of negativity. But you felt you could help them.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you see someone transforming in front of your eyes, and it's even true with small kids. When I lived in Israel, and I used to tutor in French, and I was hired to tutor a kid, and his mother said, "What did you do?" His grades went up all across the board. Why? Because this kid needed to talk, he needed to boost his self-esteem. And when you see this kind of results, it's like you are hooked. It's like an addiction.
Wow. Yeah,
almost.
yeah, that's
It's
amazing.
so rewarding. And as I grew into myself, as I grew spiritually, I realized that on a spiritual level, there is no randomness. And that when
Correct.
you are matched with someone who's in pain, that means you're some kind of a key.
Mm-hmm.
And you're both going to benefit from that. So I pay very strong attention to who's sent to me randomly,
Right.
like synchronicities.
But that's amazing. I kind of want to touch on that for a second. Is that I've never heard it put that way. You said in the universe or in energy.
Yeah,
There's
whatever
no
you want to
randomness.
call it. Yes.
Right. In the universe, there's no randomness. I
Yes.
think that's incredible. I've never heard it put that way, but I feel that way because in our life, we have a lot of people that tell us, "Well, you're so lucky that you get to live your life that way." And I never look at it that way. I never think that luck is a part of it. I always say, "No, I worked really hard to make my life this way, but also I believe in energy and the universe, and I work hand in hand with that. And when you understand how it works, you can make it work for you."
And I don't believe in luck.
I don't either. I agree.
I believe in aligning with possibilities. I always explain energy like an elevator.
Yeah.
If you are someone who's constantly in fear, in anxiety, that's the level at which you vibrate, that's the floor that you stop at.
Yeah.
And you're going to be matched with people, situations, everything that brings more fear in your life.
Right.
Once you learn to go higher and higher, and the goal is to get to the penthouse, which is love, gratitude, compassion.
Right. Self-actualization.
Yes.
You did Maslow's hierarchy.
Yes. And on any given day, you can oscillate between several floors, but there is there are a few dominant emotions that you feel on a daily basis, and that ties into mental health.
Right.
Because our brain learns so our brain wires based on what happens when we are very young, mostly between 0 to 7, except if after that you go into traumatic stuff. And what you learn at that age, the way that you're going to react, the coping mechanism and patterns that you're going to start seeing emerging and working for you to manage, who you're becoming and what's accepted of you,
Yeah.
are going to become imprinted in your brain. You're going to create neural pathways in your brain, and if you practice them enough with enough emotion, they're going to become wired for life. And that's going to be your go-to when you're under stress. That's going to be your go-to when you're under pain. So
It's kind of like working out or learning like
Exactly.
self-defense. Like if you practice it enough, in dancing we call it muscle memory.
exactly.
And so then what happens is that if something were to happen unexpectedly, we would have that muscle memory kick in.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. It's when you're under high stress and you don't know what to do.
Yes.
What are your natural reactions? That's very interesting. I've never heard it
Yes.
put that way before.
The beauty of it is that it's like a path in the grass.
Okay.
You walk on it, so it's going to create a path. But if you start working on yourself and you start walking somewhere else, the grass is going to grow back and you're going to create another path. So when you examine your life and you see that certain stuff are constantly not working for you,
Yeah.
it's a clue that
Right.
on a conscious level and on a subconscious level there is a mismatch. And you need to start investigating what creates the results that you don't like. And if we're talking about relationships, I used to attract, I used to be an overgiver, so I attracted overtakers.
Ah.
And for years I coached women on dating and on love, because you have to change who you are if you want to not only attract the person that you want,
Sure.
and both in friendship, in love, everywhere, but also once you become somebody who has self-worth, self-value, you're going to start the ones you don't want. That's I've
Yeah.
seen that working. Like the kind of men who used to like me before don't like me anymore because they find that maybe they're gonna call it she's too full of herself, but in fact it's self-love.
It's
It's
self-love.
because I'm
Yeah.
gonna say no.
It's
I have
confidence.
non-negotiables and etc.
Well, and you're not settling anymore.
Yes.
You know,
You're
and
not in fear and in desperate.
correct.
You're not desperate to be loved, looking
Exactly.
for approval everywhere you go.
Right. Or needing attention.
Yes.
I mean, the kinds of relationships, I think you're right, that we attract when we need that kind of attention or we're not set in ourselves. I've always said, on camera, off camera, doesn't matter. I've always said that a healthy relationship starts from two people being good in themselves.
Yes.
Now, are we ever perfect? No.
No.
Perfection doesn't exist. But if people who jump from one relationship to the other, they haven't, come to they haven't healed themselves from one to the other. They also haven't had any conclusion, and closure with that. So they're going to drag all of that baggage into their new relationship or into their new life. And I think that is so important to be with yourself.
And to heal the wounds.
Yeah, and to heal, absolutely. Whether it be from a relationship, even from a family, friendship, a job that didn't go right, maybe a traumatic experience that you had in your life, you were in a car accident, any of that, those things need to heal before you start new relationships. And if someone comes into your life and you feel like that's important, I feel like you need to take it upon yourself to be the responsible person and say, listen, I need you to just stay here for a second and trust that I'm going to come back, but I can't go into this without healing myself first.
And I know you're a dancer, so I did some Argentine tango at one point.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And I actually did it to develop my feminine energy, because in tango you have to listen to the man.
Absolutely.
And since I lived single for so many years, I was the boss of everything.
Right.
And with a masculine energy, it doesn't go well.
Correct.
You need a symbiosis to happen. And in tango, you have two people dancing together in harmony. And even in a toxic relationship, it's still the perfect dance for them, because they're both coming from a toxic foundation.
Sure.
Once you start changing, you don't dance the dance anymore. So either the person has to adapt their move, or you have to find another partner.
Very true. Okay, so here's what I want to know. So you have 3 children, is that what you said?
Yeah.
What are their ages?
Pretty big now.
Yeah.
22, 18, and 16.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so they're deep into figuring out who they are, what's their journey for life, that kind of thing. How are you, with your experience and what you do, of course without them saying, yeah, Mom, we get it, right? I'm sure that's happening.
Yes.
Right? But how are you maybe guiding them in today's climate? Because it's so different. I always say that I'm a millennial, so I'm 30. Everyone on camera knows that. I just turned 30. And I think I call ourselves the transitional generation, because everything in our generation has changed, between technology to LGBTQ to things being passed and stereotypes and mental health and Me Too movement, all of these things that have happened in our generation that are, people not going to college anymore because they're not guaranteed a job and they're in debt, and so now we're shifting. You have influencers that are making, 6 figures, if not millions of dollars, doing things that don't require a degree. So all of these things that are shifting in our generation, that the next generation, I'm hoping, or the generations after, are able to, I'm hoping my kids, I can tell them, okay, this is how the world works now. Because my parents, they grew up going to school, or my mom has 2 master's degrees. She teaches. She's like, how do I guide my students now? Because they're going to be in so much debt.
Yes.
They're not even guaranteed a job. So I guess my question is, how are you helping your kids to navigate through this new life that we're in?
So there are 2 parts of it. There is the part of me where I know what I'm doing, I have wisdom, and there is the part of me that's messy, because I'm still a human being.
Absolutely.
So I make mistakes.
You're learning too, yeah.
One of my main messages is do something you love. first.
Yeah.
Because if you really love it, you're going to put work into it, because you were talking about those influencers.
Yeah.
The impression that people have today is that it was overnight. Nothing.
Oh,
Nothing is overnight.
No.
And that can be misleading for the young people.
Correct.
Because they think they can put a YouTube channel and hope they're going to live.
Everything's going to go viral and they're going to be famous tomorrow. Yeah.
So when you pick something you love, you will have the endurance, you will have the stamina, you will have the genius ideas.
The inspiration, the motivation.
Yes,
Yeah.
to stay at it and create your dream.
I love that.
The second thing is realizing that there is work involved. And do you have, you may love to be, I don't know, even an interviewer or a doctor. There are certain education that you need.
Sure.
You have the tools
Training.
to back up
Yeah.
what you want.
Absolutely.
If not, go train yourself.
Sure.
I had to train myself to be even in front of camera at the beginning when I started, because I was so self-conscious about it. I trained and trained and trained, and then you acquire those things under your belt to fuel your dream.
Sure.
So be open to big things. See how you feel about stuff, because that indicates at what level you vibrate.
Yeah. Oh, that gave me chills though. Be open to big things. That's such a
Absolutely.
simple phrase, but that just hits so big
Open
for me.
with no attachment.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
We were just talking about that, weren't we?
Yes, we were talking
Yeah,
about being
right before.
open. Sometimes the universe, and always, has a way bigger idea of what kind of miracles they could
Right.
create for you. We are that small with our mind compared to what could happen.
Correct.
So stay open to
My
miracles.
goodness, yeah.
Watch what's working, what's not working, where you need to tweak,
Yeah.
and both work with energy, but work also with, we're on earth, we're human beings, so work also at the human level, because it's not just enough to sit on your couch and meditate and wish. You need to take action. So have your
self-reflection.
Yes.
I don't think enough people, not just in today's world, but in general, I don't ever remember having a conversation with my grandparents about self-reflection. Right?
I think they were too busy to.
Right. Or just society was different. Things,
Yeah,
you know,
we
I mean,
evolved too.
we evolve, but I think in today's world, I think self-reflection is so necessary. It's so important. And I don't think enough people do it. And because what you were saying before that hit me is realizing when something's not going right.
Yes.
And that has happened to me multiple times in my life. Because I grew up, I have had an incredible childhood. I have amazing parents, very happy. And when I wasn't happy, there was something that hit me that I was like, something's wrong, right? But so many people, I think, go through life, whether it be their adult life or their childhood life, and they don't realize that they don't feel happy every day. That's fine, I guess.
Yes.
But they don't realize that they can make a change for that.
We're not taught that. I wish that it's going to come into the schools, because we desperately need that.
We won't even get into the school conversation.
We need to.
That's a whole other thing.
We need
But
to
yes.
have awareness about our thoughts and the way
Yeah.
we feel.
Yes, critical thinking. Just
yes.
like understanding why we're thinking this way and how we feel, and that's okay.
With no shame. Yeah.
With no shame.
About a year and a half ago, I had a hard time. So I was struggling with some illness. My kids were becoming teenagers, and I had a hard time taking the turn. Because you need to become more of an impactor, more of a guide. You don't control. That's where you realize you don't control anybody. Let me tell you.
When you have teenagers.
It's in your face.
That's awesome.
So me being a single mom, I had so many balls in the air.
Yeah.
And even though I was a coach, I was positive and all that, at a certain point it became too much.
Right.
And I went down into depression without realizing that this was depression.
Wow.
Because I was like, I'm not a depressed person. That's not what it is.
Right.
Until I reached a point where I would never kill myself, but I was wishing like to disappear.
Right.
So that's not a
You
good
wish that
sign.
it would stop.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So, of course, it's not the same for every depression, because there are some clinical depressions and you need a doctor and you
Sure.
need maybe some meds. But when it is like what I call a situational depression, that comes from the fact that you rehearse everything you have to do, or every danger that could be in the universe, or everything that you need to be on alert for 24/7, you're going to go down. Because your thoughts create your emotions, and then the level at which you vibrate becomes a cycle. Everything, you know, there is a part of our brain, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's called the reticular activating system. And this part, one of the role of that part is to bring coherence between your internal world and the outside world. Wow. So when inside you are entertaining thoughts that are, the world is dangerous and my kids could be in danger because they go to parties and I have my taxes to pay and I have my physical health and I have all those things. When you think about it too much, that system is realizing what is relevant and important to you based on what thoughts you're entertaining.
Right.
Then it's going to show
and what you can control.
Yeah, in the world, it's going to show you, hey, here is another danger you maybe didn't think about.
People that tell me, well, you can't control that. There's nothing you can do about that.
There is something you can do about that.
And I want to know what you have to say about that. Because for me, the way I see it is that even if I have nothing, I can't control it, that doesn't mean it doesn't affect me. Because it is affecting me. And I feel like I should be letting it affect me. Because if I see that an entire continent and billions of animals are dying and humans and destruction of houses and things, and that doesn't affect me, what does that say about me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Your
heartless.
Yeah.
So it should be affecting me, right? Now, what can we do about it? Or how can we help if we don't feel like we have as much control over those types of government, situations? How can we at least in our day-to-day life, maybe, like you said, maybe not feel so depressed?
And powerless.
And powerless.
Yeah.
That's a great word to use. Yeah.
The first thing is, I love the New Age stuff and the spirituality.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's going on.
Right.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
It is.
Because if you look at history, I come from Europe. How did Hitler come into
I
power?
was literally just about to say the Holocaust.
Yes.
Right.
So that's
people
dangerous.
were turning a blind eye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be aware. Go vote when you have. It's a privilege.
Absolutely.
Especially for a woman. In certain
Right.
countries, women cannot vote.
Still,
Go and
right.
vote. Vote. Put your voice in there. If there are petitions you're aware about that you want to be part of, sign.
Hey, I think people underestimate how far a simple act of kindness can go.
Yes.
Just by, when was the last time someone that was not your family member or a friend that you were with opened a door for you? At a restaurant or something?
It happens.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like that's so rare.
It is
You know what I mean?
of rare, but...
And it's such a simple thing
Just
that
today-
back in the day
today.
used to happen all the time.
Yes.
So, or
And-
like you said, helping someone across the street, a smile,
A smile, just a smile. Some
thanking
people are
someone,
depressed.
giving someone your cart instead of putting it back if they need a
Yes.
cart. Like I do that all the time. I think the thing is that, and my parents definitely made me aware of this for sure, but I liked it and wanted to develop it as I got older, is just a sense of awareness around you.
Yeah.
And I see so many people in the world right now when I walk around, because I am aware of everything around me, that I see when everybody is not. Because I'm observing them to see if they need anything, right? Or if something is happening or whatever. And I see how oblivious they are to the person who is maybe trying to get by and grab a straw at the Starbucks, and they're just standing there and have no idea that someone's trying to get by. And that's just an example. But there's so many instances I feel that are like that. Or, everyone says driving in a car, and they're just not paying attention, right? And they're just cutting across. I almost saw an accident happen yesterday because someone wanted to go and the other one. That happens constantly. But I think just in daily life, how you can touch someone and make their day so much better by just a random act of kindness.
And it will not only be their day, it will be make your day better.
Totally. Because what you give out comes back. That is the law of attraction.
And so, I don't know if you've heard about that study that they did about kindness, where they saw that there were 3 levels.
Okay.
The person who receives it, the person who gives it, and the person who witnesses it.
Oh, wow.
So it's incredibly powerful.
Can you imagine what we can do in this world?
Once you smile to someone, first of all, it sends a message to your brain, so you're happier, and you're giving them a gift.
Absolutely.
You don't know what a smile can do to someone who's depressed and who's not feeling good on that day. On a quantum physics level, we are all energy. And any energy, any thought that you have will feed the field around you.
Okay.
So if you have thoughts of, I matter, I can send some love, it will still travel. And there are so many studies now showing that prayers and love
I was going to
works at
say,
a
I think that's
distance.
a lot of things, prayer.
I do Reiki, so I know that energy
Oh, you
works.
do Reiki?
Yes.
I love that. I have a friend that does Reiki. That's so
And
awesome.
so energy can also make, there is a book called Power versus Force,
Okay.
where he explains that at a certain level, a certain percentage of negative energy or positive, the balance will shift that way or that way.
Right.
So our responsibility, based on what I believe, is also to put good thoughts into the world.
Absolutely.
And not fall into fear, because nowadays there is so much, the terrorism, the
So much
fires,
fear.
everything. If you fall into the fear, you're feeding the fear that you don't want to feel.
That's it. I know.
And
But as you know, and I'm right there with you because I know that that's the case. I know how the law of attraction works. I know that when someone tells me, oh, but did you see this? Did you see that? And I try to just, like you said, I make myself aware, but I don't feed into the fear.
Yeah.
That's not going to stop me from traveling. That's not
Yes.
going to stop. I'm not going to live in fear. But even me, easier said than done. Because I do have to say,
Some days.
yesterday everything just hit at once. And I just felt like you said, powerless. Well, I'm not a negative person and I'm not an unhappy person. So when, like, my first time that it ever happened to me, I went away to college and it just was not what I expected it to be. And I was like, something in me was saying, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that person who was like, oh, give it a chance, you know, like you're not giving it a shot. And I'm like, but something is off. Like my body is clearly telling me this is not where I belong. And it wasn't. And I made a change. But up until that point, that had never happened to me before, and I was a very happy person, not negative and all that stuff. So I think listen to the thoughts and the reactions, you know, the impulses that your body is telling you, because I think that is the most important thing. And don't feel like, you know, you're going to be bringing down people around you. Like if you're having a moment where you're not feeling great or you're depressed, like live in that moment for a second, accept it, like you said.
It's a message.
It's a message. Your body or the universe is trying to tell you something or trying to help you to grow as a person. And so just tell your family, hey, listen, I'm going through a rough time, but I need to sit in it for a minute and I need to analyze what's happening.
Sometimes days, because
Oh, for me it's been
days.
months. It's lasted months sometimes, and it's a very long time. But yeah, I'm very quick to think like, you know, at the most I want it to take like a week, but sometimes it's not a week's worth of growth. Sometimes it takes longer than that. But you have to be willing to want to move forward and grow and do some research. Try yoga, try things that are going to help you to find, because then if you put yourself out there, the universe will bring people to you that will help you to figure out what is happening and to make that change.
It's magical this way.
It really is.
When you talk about being triggered, like your day yesterday,
Yeah.
when I was into that depression, so what helped me come back up was becoming aware of my thoughts and know what thoughts serve and actually do something, and what thoughts, because we believe our thoughts. So if you have a thought that it's horrible, the world is going to be disappearing and you're not doing anything about it, what does it help?
Right.
Unless you take action, there is no help in there.
Correct.
So those are the kind of thoughts that unless you can do something an action, let it go.
Right.
Because you're gonna like dump everything that doesn't serve you, and like a balloon, you're gonna start rising up. And the other
I like
tool,
that. That's a nice metaphor.
the other tool I use is something called emotional freedom technique.
Okay.
Because when you're in that state triggered, the part of your brain, the stress center of your brain, the amygdala, is activated. It's the fight, flight, or freeze center.
Mm-hmm.
It's fully active. And you can't think clearly because the blood flow is redirected to your extremities, because it comes from a survival mechanism that's in place since cavemen and cavewomen, where you have a tiger or something in front of you, a predator, you need to be able to fight or run. So your body still has this biological response when you're under stress, even though you're thinking about something that's thousands of miles away and you are not physically in danger, you're still reacting as is.
Wow.
So that technique, which is a mix between the acupuncture nervous meridians in the body and modern psychology, helps you get back to your center so you can think better and feel better, and maybe you have an idea where you can actually take action and do your part, or if you just had a fight with someone or somebody cuts you off and you're all like, you know, those people who turns into
Road
dragons.
rage. Yep. Oh yeah.
in their cars.
I think we've all come across at least
So
one of those in our
go
life.
back to your center and actually think, well, I don't know, maybe that person is going to the ER. What do we know about their story? We don't know.
Right. Don't judge.
And don't take it personally. They didn't
Sure.
do that to you. They did that because they're in their bubble of whatever they are in.
Yes.
And maybe they feel entitled, maybe they don't. It's not even relevant.
Right.
Go back to your center, and from there, go back to some more elevated positive emotions. Because you'll do better in the world, you'll do better in your life, you'll do better everywhere else.
Absolutely. I love that. That's amazing. The physical issues or like the ADHD and all of these things, how that as an adult, if it's not corrected early enough or treated well, how that can become a mental illness as an adult.
So I
Right.
don't have enough information about that. I don't know.
Not, and I don't mean it in a sense of like diagnosing and all this. I'm not saying on more of like a scientific level. I'm saying I do feel like when you hear people talk as an adult and they say, oh, well, you know, I just feel this insecurity here, or I'm depressed here, or, you know, I know someone who has, you know, a lot of insecurities because of how they were treated by their parents. You know, I mean, we know lots of people like that, you know, and so it gets to a place where those bring on your insecurities as an adult, and that now all of a sudden you're moving through life differently, and you have challenges that if you would just either face, I think therapy should be required for everybody.
I agree.
Right? And
But it's so
because
expensive too.
well, that, but if we could level that out with, you know, like insurances and things, because I don't think it's as encouraged.
Yes.
But I think everyone says, do you have you have to have a primary care physician. Well, you should have a primary therapist that helps you. Your mental is just as important as your physical. You know?
It's that's where it starts.
That's where it starts. You can make your physical better with your mental.
Oh yeah.
And people don't get that.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
So I was telling
Yeah.
you I had, so I contracted hepatitis B in 2017.
Mhm.
And I almost died from it. So I remember
Wow.
being on a hospital bed and the doctor telling me, your body's not reacting to the medication, we're not sure if you're going to make it, but we'll have to fly you to California in emergency. And I remember thinking, I'm at peace with dying now except for my kids.
Of course.
I've done everything I wanted to do. I live my dream even if I'm not there wherever I want. And then they told me you will take medication probably for the rest of your life, and that can degenerate into liver cancer. And I never wanted to listen to them. I took the medication because I was at risk, but I took 2 years to meditate.
Wow.
I took 2 years to work on my body. I did all kinds of stuff, and now I'm meds free. So it could be that I did that.
And
it
this
could
was
be
how many
that
years ago?
I just recently stopped the medication in August.
Wow.
So I'm sure that the part that I did played a role as
for
well as
sure.
everything else.
Yeah.
But it starts here. There is so
Totally.
much evidence now.
Totally.
Scientific evidence.
This is all you have. I mean, if you know anyone out there who's watched The Secret, the guy who is full body cast, who's sitting on the bed, and they tell him, well, you know, this is it. This is, you're going to live like this for the rest of your life. He's like, I'm not living like this. He said, on Christmas Day, I'm going to walk out of this hospital. And all he had was this. He couldn't speak. He couldn't communicate with anybody. He couldn't move. He could barely breathe. I think he was on a breathing tube. And on Christmas Day, you know, very carefully, he walked out with the help of a walker and found his way back. It was here. This is where it all begins. And if this is that powerful to heal your body, because all the cells and everything all, you know, work together in there, then imagine what it could do. If you're already a healthy person, you're just trying to change your career, right? That's what I try to tell people is they're like, well, I can't live my life like you because it does, you know, I don't believe in those types of things, or I don't think that, you know, or they start making excuses.
My example as a single mom with a job and a business, you don't have to throw everything in the trash and go live wherever you want to live and do a drastic change. One little thing a day will create results. So
and I think I say this in every podcast. My dad always says it's like Velcro. right?
Yes.
One little thing, and that's what
Yeah.
makes everything stick.
Yes.
And you're totally right. Make small changes that work towards the future you're looking for. I always tell people vision boards, right? Work towards what are the big goals that you have. You know, my brother does something really cool where he sets up 5 major goals. And he puts them on the board and makes them very visual. And at the end, it's very attainable. It's very reasonable. But they're big goals, but it just makes it so that it's very easy. Versus some people are like, this is all the things I want. Usually that's my vision board.
You scare yourself.
Yeah, that's usually my vision. He's like, that's crazy. How can you do all those things? It's like, well, this thing goes, but
Because
then all of a sudden,
know that.
you don't know what to look at anymore, though. It needs to be simplified.
But so that's funny because I just did an episode about a class I did on New Year's resolution and having your thoughts as a backup team to your dream, because you may set a dream and you're going to be so wanting to go for it, but if you constantly have thoughts every time you put something out, and I still catch myself sometimes putting a class or I have a membership out and saying to myself, I said, oh, that's awesome, I love it, I'm going to put it on the membership and it's going to grow. And I hear that little voice that says, what do you think it's going to grow? It hasn't grown as big now yet.
Right.
And those voices,
the doubt.
Yes, but those voices, you could, because as I was saying, thoughts are just thoughts, they're not fact. And like Tony Robbins is saying, your past doesn't have to equal your future or your truth.
Correct. And I think that's what so many people don't understand is that, you know, and I'm constantly working towards this because I am blessed to have people, you know, like you, that even though we just met, I have some other people saying that this is how they think. And we're constantly trying to control our thoughts in the sense that, because like you said, we're creating them.
Yeah.
That thing that's telling us that we're not good enough, that's us.
But
that's not anybody else saying that.
Somebody else told it to you in your childhood. And
or something, and it's getting
either
stuck
your
in
father,
there.
your mother, a teacher somewhere.
And you can easily, well not easily, but you can dissolve it. You have the power to overcome that thought and make it, or shift it 180 degrees completely. Well, try, every time you have a negative thought, reverse it with a positive thought. Right? How can you take the negative thought that you just had and make it a positive one and find the silver lining that then is going to, like, don't allow yourself to sit in that negative thought.
And develop awareness.
Awareness.
Brain is
because some people don't even realize that they're saying a negative thought.
It's so magnificent.
And when people bring it to their attention, they're like, I didn't say that. And I'm like, but you did.
Have an intention to develop awareness. And don't be scared, because at the beginning, you're going to see how much negative thoughts you have a day, you're going to scare yourself. But that's okay.
Totally.
That's the beginning.
Right. But
And
write them down and try
them
to, like I said, cross them out and put a positive one next to it.
And so that works, but when if the positive is too far from your negative, if the gap is too big, your subconscious is going to say, yeah, right, reject it.
Okay.
So, like I teach people how to love themselves. In tapping, you start with a statement, whatever is going on, I still love and accept myself. Some people can't even say that because they don't feel it. So I said, okay, that's okay. It's too far from what's imprinted now. Say, I'm willing to learn to love myself, or I'm learning to love myself.
Right.
So that you know it's a truth, because what you're doing
work
now.
your way up.
Yeah, and you can go through your day and see what makes you react strongly emotionally.
Okay.
Like for me, it's lies. I hate lies, but that means that something in me. There is what triggers you outside. There is something in you that you don't accept too. Anxiety. Give me the more precise you are, the better it works. So your issue, let's say, I don't know, if we're talking about moms with teenagers, anxiety about my kids going to parties and taking drugs, or anxiety about my kids not having a future, or
absolutely.
As adults, anxiety about too much work, or what do you think your audience would resonate with the most?
Okay,
I know the lack of time is a big thing for people.
So, as you said, you can do this technique you're going to show us with any type of anxiety or stress or anything like that. And the first question she asked me was, what gives you anxiety? And I told her, as a kid, I was the person that didn't stress. I had a very happy childhood. I was not an anxious person. And as an adult, I feel like all of these things are bubbling up to the surface. But the biggest thing right now, I think, is that I finally have fallen in love. I'm I'm getting all of the things that I finally have prayed for and wanted for so long, and I don't want it to disappear and go away, or I don't want it to end before I get a chance to do everything I want to do. So what I think we should do right now is focus on the fear of flying, because I think a lot of people have that fear
So
in an airplane.
I'm going to ask you to go into the anxiety, even though
Okay.
it doesn't feel good, but if we want to work with it. So on a scale of 0 to 10,
Yes.
0 being I'm not anxious at all, 10 like, oh, I
Yes,
can't
yes.
stand it, you need to be at a 5 or higher. So try
Okay.
to
Woo.
bring into your mind where you are physically reacting to the anxiety. So what we're going to do, and people can follow and do work on their issue instead of saying what I'm going to say. What we're going to do, we're going to tap on some points.
Okay.
I'm going to say a statement, and you're going to repeat what I said.
Okay.
So I will not explain all the points now. You just have to follow because it's for the sake of time.
Sure. Yeah.
So we start with here the karate chop,
Okay.
and you tap at the same time, either 3 fingers, 2 fingers,
Okay.
and you repeat after me. Even though I'm terrified about flying,
Even though I'm terrified about flying,
and I'm really afraid that it would be fatal,
and I'm really afraid that it will be fatal,
I love and accept myself completely.
I love and accept myself completely.
Do you have any resistance to this? I love and accept myself completely.
Not at all.
Perfect. We're going to repeat that sentence 2 times. And here we're going to go into the fear. You tap with 2 fingers here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really afraid of flying.
I'm really afraid of flying.
On the side of the eye, on the bone here.
Mm-hmm.
This could be the end.
This could be the end.
On the bone here, under the eye. This could be the end of my life.
This could be the end of my life.
Under the nose, I don't even want to think about it.
I don't even want to think about it.
Under the mouth, I'm so afraid of flying.
I'm so afraid of flying.
Under the bone here in the soft part. This is terrifying.
This is terrifying.
I am so, under bra line here,
Mhm.
I'm so afraid.
I'm so afraid.
I'm afraid of flying.
I'm afraid of flying.
And then go back to the points. Just thinking about taking off makes my body react. I don't want that fear in my body.
I don't want that fear in my body.
I think that fear doesn't serve any purpose.
I don't think that fear serves any purpose.
And now I am willing to let go of that fear.
And now I am waiting to let go of that fear.
I'm willing to let go of the fear of flying.
I'm willing to let go of that fear of
Do
flying.
you feel any resistance when you say that?
Mm-mm.
I'm willing to let go of that fear. It doesn't serve anything.
Yeah, I'm ready to let go of that fear. It does not serve anything.
It won't stop the plane from crashing.
No, it will not stop the plane from crashing.
In fact, it could be the opposite. I could attract it.
Right, it could be the opposite. I could be attracting it. I think about that too.
I do not want that fear in my body.
I do not want that fear in my body.
I now choose to let go of that fear.
I now choose to let go of that fear.
It is safe to let go of that fear in my body.
It is safe to let go of that fear in
Do you
my
feel
body.
any resistance to it is safe?
Mm-mm.
It is safe to let go of that fear of flying.
It is safe to let go of that fear of flying.
I now decide to let go of that fear of flying.
I now decide to let go of that fear of flying.
I'm freeing myself from that fear.
I'm freeing myself from that fear. What you did is you took almost 2 rounds to stay in that fear.
Yeah.
So my question to you is that say I'm sitting on an airplane and I'm feeling that fear, why would I want to continually say I could die right now? This could be the end. Why wouldn't I go straight into I'm going to release that fear?
Because you may experience some resistance, you need to acknowledge what is.
Okay.
And when you're going to be on the airplane, if you don't have those kind of thoughts, go into the thoughts that you have.
Yeah.
And if you don't want everybody to look at you, you can just do, this one is the most powerful.
Okay.
And you can do that, and you can...
So you don't
Think
want to
about
be in
what you're
denial and try to
Yes.
push it away.
No, because then you repress it and it
Right.
stays.
So you want to accept, like basically what you're doing is you're describing your environment.
Yes.
And you're saying, this is what is happening. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling turbulence. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling
And
like
there
I
is
could
a reason
die.
for that.
Right. And so you want to acknowledge all of those things at least for a good few minutes. And then you want to start to transition it and change your mindset.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting that you just had me do is that it is a very easy tool and a very easy activity, I would say, exercise, for the people who are not used to self-analyzing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy we did that.
Yes, it's so nice to officially meet you. Thank you for reaching out to me.
I'm
And
glad I did.
I'm glad you did too. See, universe, guys, that's how it works. So Awesome. Thank you so much.